He's not a good role model.
Yeah, he's got to be mentally ill. So if you're wondering what the Democratic platform is, because they've had a rough little while winning elections. I mean, I think they've lost 4 now in a row. So if you're wondering what they're standing for, how they're rebuilding their party, this is one of the ways. I mean, they are trying continuously to find a way to get President Trump out of office. And it's not like there aren't bills coming to their desk, Pete.
That's right.
Important bills.
And this isn't just a fringe thing. I mean, one of the 25 Democrats backing this bill is the former DNC chairwoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I mean, the extreme has become mainstream for the Democratic Party when it gets to the point where, and we broke down how many people are supporting this bill versus the bills you've talked about, Abby, whether it's Kate's Law or the Sanctuary City Law that passed the House of Representatives. Take a look at this. 25 Democrats support trying to deem President Trump incapable, and less support Kate's Law and Sanctuary City's 2 common sense bills that enforce the rule of law in our country.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had Corey Lewandowski on the show earlier this morning. He was fired up about this. Take a listen to what he thought.
Washington for 30 years has been broken. All of a sudden, they want to try and remove a president for no reason. You know why? Because they hate the agenda, which is putting America first, which is tax cuts, repeal and replace Obamacare, stopping illegal aliens from coming into the country, and killing American citizens. Who could be against Kate's Law? This is the amazing part. When did protecting citizens of the United States from murder become a partisan issue? Tell the Democrats, get on board, protect American people. Let's get the bill to the Senate. Let's get Democrat senators and bipartisan support to pass that bill so we can protect American citizens.
So we talked about the Democrats, but you also have the liberal media, many of them in meltdown mode.
Well, this week I learned something. I didn't know, and maybe you guys are like me. I'm not terribly bright, but I didn't realize that MSNBC even had a morning show.
You didn't?
I didn't know
they do have a morning show, Clayton.
I only learned about it this week, thanks to President Trump.
Well, someone that you don't really care for, Donnie Deutsch, is on that show almost every single day. And this was yesterday, and this was obviously in reaction to the tweet that President Trump, and they've been going at it. Of course, Morning Joe loves this because, as you said, not a lot of people watch the show, so they're loving any attention that is on them. Donnie Deutsch went nuts over President Trump. Take a listen.
He's a pig. He's a vulgar pig. He's physically disgusting to look at. I mean, that's what I find ironic about the way he starts to always go after other people's physical attributes. Donald, if you're watching, we're from Queens. I'll meet you in the schoolyard, brother.
Meet you in the schoolyard, brother, is the response.
All in response to those tweets, the president, after, as Governor Huckabee had said, after months and months and months of that show attacking him, he comes out with a tweet this week and attacks that show and, calling attention to that morning show. And they fired back, bringing in, doctors to diagnose him on the show.
And sort of prove that he's unfit or unhinged. And I ask, who really is unhinged? Is it the armchair crackpot psychiatrist at Morning Joe? Is it the 24 Dems we just talked about who are pushing this bill? How about every CNN host that is basically leading the resistance movement, or the failing New York Times is having to retract stories that were literally fake news? The opposition to this president has been unhinged, and when he punches back, I say more tweets, that's my opinion, when he punches back, they hate it because he's...
I'm fine with the tweets. I'm just saying it's the content of the tweet. So I agree, and Governor Huckabee agreed with me. He said if I was advising the president, I would tell him,
Lewandowski agreed.
That's true.
Governor Huckabee agreed with me. So just raising the level of discourse. I thought when he was on this Middle East trip and he was tweeting about foreign policy, he was talking about the trip, he was talking about the things they were accomplishing. Even the left-wing media at that time was praising the trip. I thought it elevated the conversation, looked presidential. And then tweeting about some show that no one's watching, and you're swinging the pitches in the dirt.
During the campaign, they said the same thing. Don't swing in the dirt. He's punched and punched.
I'm not saying how it will affect him. I'm not saying that it's going to somehow hinder his ability to run for re-election. I'm just saying, as the president of the United States, why do you even care what Morning Joe is saying?
He actually,
I think he does.
In the interview that President Trump had with you, he said this extreme rhetoric. He said that might work in a campaign, but he said when you are running a country, it needs to change. He said that in your interview. I don't have the exact words, but along those lines, and I think that does come from the top. We forget, by the way, that this shooting with Steve Scalise, that happened less than a month ago. Do you remember the outcry from the American public to say the discourse has got to die down? We have got to wake up in this country. So we all have different opinions about this. So do our audience, right? And of course, we've asked them their thoughts as well.
Well, Todd is here this morning. You hit the streets, went out, and got a sense of what people are saying out there.
Yeah, and a lot of people agree with you, Clayton. A lot of people agree with Pete. But here's what you had to say. he has the right to say whatever he pleases. He is our president, but he's still a person with a personal opinion also.
What do you think of the president's tweeting?
I really don't have an issue with it. He's just hitting back, taking all the blows from the major news outlets, and he's just hitting back. I have no problem with him keeping it up, honestly. I think they do need to be called out.
I think he contradicts himself a lot. He needs to kind of chill out and do his job.
What is your opinion of Donald Trump's tweeting?
I think he probably needs to stay off the tweets. You know, I like Donald Trump. I think that he's, changing some things, but I think he needs to stay off the tweets.
The mainstream media totally left, totally against everything he does. If what he says is not being presented to the people, left or right, how else can you get it out? So he's doing it that way.
You should just block his entire Twitter completely as a whole.
I think they're awesome. I think they're honest, doing a great job in his tweets. It is what it is. It's the truth.
He's going to do whatever he wants to do, regardless of what people say. He's a president. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Does it bother you in any way, shape, or form?
It doesn't really have an effect on my life. I'm going to live my life the way I want to.
And again, that's the big takeaway. We have so many real issues that people care about. Their jobs, their taxes, their health care. This stuff is just noise.
But if you lose in the media, Todd, if you lose in the media, you lose in oftentimes at the ballot box or in the halls of Congress. So the narrative really matters. And if you don't punch back and change it or point out the fake news, as he's done at CNN and
that's the issue.
Elsewhere, then you lose the news side.
But you know what? They're only going to get worse. When you hit back at them, as we've already seen just in the last 24 hours, they are going to fight back even harder. And then so why even give them the attention that I will say though?
Or you expose them.
I'm glad you're on my
expose
side.
them by doing that.
Thank you. So I've got Abby on my side.
Let's see what our viewers said. They emailed us here. They say, keep on tweeting, Mr. President. This is Jerry. Drain that swamp. So one in the Pete camp. Beth says, thank goodness he tweets so we know what the administration is doing. We certainly don't see or hear anything in the media. I wish he would tweet more. So 2 for Pete. Now we're going to go to one that's...
I don't know if that's argument there was spot on. Tweeting about Morning Joe is not what we want to know about.
Judy says the president needs to stop the personal tweets attacks. He needs to rise above this. And then I think this one's really in the Clayton camp. I think he should continue from Fran. I think he should continue to tweet and call out these MSM personal attacks. But I wish he would also tweet more about his successes.
Yes.
The VA bill, case law, jobs.
There's no but on that. You know why? Because we had Kellyanne Conway on the program yesterday. I was in for Brian, and she pointed out that the vast majority of the president's tweets are about substance. They are about policy. They are about the VA. And he chooses moments to point out the fake news because if you
then why choose this moment to tweet, Pete? Because he knows that he had the momentum.
Because
they were talking about these issues in the moment that he veered off and tweeted something personal. He knows what they're going to do, though. The media is going to attack him whenever they get the chance.
Look what we're not
so he gave them that opportunity.
Fake news, Russian collusion. Look what we're not. I mean, it's a holiday weekend. They're going at him. He takes a shot at him. The healthcare bill's not dead. He's got a chance to revive that. You're right, though. There's so many other good things have happened, like the travel ban. He tweets about all of those things. So the ability to critique the media is something that's been very effective for him.
Why call attention to a show no one's watching and now it's the top story?
Well, I will say this.
All right. Thanks for mediating this. And we want to know what you continue to tell us what you think. Friends at foxnews.com. You can tweet at us and let us know. Are you Team Clayton or Team Abby?
We need to get T-shirts.
You can say that President Trump has been consistent.
Yes.
His brand has been consistent, whether you agree or not. All right, we do want to get to a serious story, starting with some headlines in a Fox News alert. New disturbing video from inside an Arkansas nightclub where a shooter opened fire overnight. That chaos unfolding at the Power Ultra Lounge in Little Rock, where 17 people were hurt, many of them trampled trying to escape. A manhunt now underway at this hour for the gunman, but at this point, police do not believe the motive was terror-related. And New Jersey state government shut down. Governor Chris Christie making the order at midnight after the Democratic-controlled state legislature would not pass a budget. It's only the second time it's happened in New Jersey history, and things like state parks, DMVs are closed, but essential services like police and public transportation, they will continue on this morning. And those are some other headlines we're following. We had more, but we were debating for so long.
Too passionate.
The time just went by.
I bet America's debating this very same thing. So, all right, the Democratic Party has a new front runner for American Idol.
I've been marching for my 15, getting paid now. That's what I mean. I need money.
Well, the city of Minneapolis decided to go to a $15 minimum wage, and that's Minnesota Democratic Congressman Keith Ellison, and he's on tour apparently coming to a city near you because he's so happy about it.
Said, I need money. And President Obama is returning to the campaign trail. His first stop, a fight against the Republican candidate for governor in Virginia. That candidate, Welcome back. Well, after a string of special election losses, Democrats are desperate for a win. And their answer? Former President Barack Obama, who will return to stump for their candidate in Virginia's heated governor's race. So, should the GOP candidate Ed Gillespie be worried about that?
Well, he is here, and he has got an answer for us. Good morning. Good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
So how do you feel about that? I mean, clearly the Democrats see a real challenge if they're sending the former president to attack you.
Well, they know they've got to divert from my opponent's record, Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam. You know, since he first got elected, we have shed 69,000 manufacturing jobs in Virginia. Last year, our economic growth rate here was 0.6%. We were 39th out of 50 states in economic growth. Every state on the East Coast, from Maine to Florida, is doing better than we are in terms of economic growth, with the only exception of Delaware, which has fewer people than Fairfax County, Virginia. And so we're in trouble here, and they're going to do everything they can to divert attention away from the fact that under Lieutenant Governor Northam's time in office, we've been falling in terms of rankings for business-friendly states, and more people have moved out of Virginia than into Virginia, and his record of showing up even for work. We have an Economic Development Commission here. He missed over half of the meetings. He's a member of it.
Sure.
We have a Homeland Security Commission. He didn't go to any of those, and now he wants a promotion after not showing up for the job that he has. So I'm sure they're going to do everything they can to not talk about his record as lieutenant governor.
So, I mean, Democrats nationally have a goose egg on special elections in attempts to beat Republicans under the Trump administration. Virginia has off-year gubernatorial elections, so it's November is the cycle this year in 2017. How desperate do you believe Democrats are nationally to use Virginia as an example that they can win again? Is that why they're sending Obama there?
Oh, we see liberals pouring into the Commonwealth of Virginia from all over the country, and the stakes are very, very high here. The fact is they believe that if they can win in Virginia, they can lock it in terms of the Electoral College. We've been a swing state in the Electoral College for a number of cycles now. But, you know, Virginians are focused on Virginia and what we need to do here in terms of creating jobs and raising take-home pay, helping people lift themselves out of poverty, improving our public schools and our roads. And I've got solutions for all those things. I know exactly what we need to do to get Virginia growing again, and my policies are very, very different. My opponent voted for the largest tax increase in Virginia history, raising taxes on gasoline and sales taxes and property taxes, and I'm running on a 10% across-the-board cut in our individual income tax rates. That would create over 53,000 good-paying, full-time private sector jobs. That's a 25% increase over current projections. And it would also mean, in terms of disposable income for the average family of four in Virginia, between the increased jobs and more take-home pay and the tax relief, it would mean for the average family of four nearly $1,300 annually in disposable income. That'd be good for Virginia.
Ed, earlier on the show we had Governor Huckabee on, who said this health care bill, we need to scrap it. Throw it back in the trash heap. It's terrible. We need to punt it down to the governors. Give it to the states. Where do you come down on health care?
Well, you know, I've got policies for at the state level that will increase competition in our insurance markets and provider markets. That will help bring down costs for consumers as well. And I'm watching to see what goes on in the Senate. I've got concerns with some of the things in the House bill, have concerns with some of the things I've seen in the Senate bill. You know, from my perspective, Virginia should not be punished for being a fiscally responsible state. We did not accept the Medicaid expansion or enact a Medicaid expansion here in the Commonwealth.
Right.
I do believe that we should protect people who have pre-existing conditions from being denied coverage when they first enter the marketplace, and we've got to bring down costs. And so I'm hopeful that they can do that. I do know this: the Affordable Care Act has been a disaster for the people of Virginia, and it does need to be replaced.
Yep.
All right. Ed Gillespie, good to have you with us. Good luck on the campaign trail. All right, liberals filing a last-ditch lawsuit to stop the president's travel order, but can they really go around the Supreme Court? Alan Dershowitz here to discuss next.
24 minutes after the top of the hour. Welcome back to Fox and Friends. Some quick headlines for you. The state of Nevada is officially going green. Recreational marijuana is now available to anyone 21 years and older with a valid ID. Recreational marijuana is now legal in 8 states and the District of Columbia. And Minneapolis, the latest city to approve a $15 minimum wage. Deputy DNC Chairman Keith Ellison, who's a congressman from that area, he's so happy he burst into song.
I've been marching for my 15, getting paid now, that's what I mean. I need money, that's what I want. 15 hours will do. We gotta get paid, y'all.
Ellison putting his own twist on the song Money by Barrett Strong. Despite the excitement, a recent study found that Seattle increased wages resulted in fewer hours and less money for workers. Sometimes the minimum wage makes congressmen feel great, but doesn't work all that well for regular working people. Abby, over to you.
He's looking pretty happy right there. Thank you, Pete. Well, Democrats have long claimed that all 17 U.S. intel agencies agreed that the Russians worked to get President Trump elected. Watch.
This has come from the highest levels of the Russian government, clearly from Putin himself, in an effort, as 17 of our intelligence agencies have confirmed, to influence our election.
17 of our intelligence agencies.
17 intelligence agencies.
17 different United States intelligence agencies.
The intelligence communities have concluded, all 17 of them, that Russia interfered with this election.
Well, after all that, it turns out it wasn't 17. The actual number was 4. Even the New York Times corrected a story this week in which it also falsely claimed that all 17 intel agencies agreed on Russia.
And overnight, the Associated Press did the same thing, issuing a late-night, Friday night correction just before the holiday weekend after it had published 4 separate stories citing that fake news. Here to weigh in is Harvard University law professor Alan Dershowitz. Alan, good to see you this morning. What do you make of all these corrections coming before the holiday weekend?
Well, I'm not surprised because we're going about learning about the Russian connection, if there was any, in the wrong way. We're subjecting it to a criminal investigation behind locked doors in front of a grand jury. It's not what we should have been doing. We should have had an independent commission, much like the 911 Commission, to inquire as to what happened, not to suspect crime immediately and to accuse people of crime. We accuse people of crime much too quickly in this country. We ought to find out what happened. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, a liberal or conservative. If the Russians tried to tamper with the election in any way, we have to know that. And we have to pass laws preventing it for the future. But accusing people of crime and suggesting that there was collaboration without any information is not the right way to get the information that we need to prevent problems in the future.
Right. Where does this Russian collusion story sit right now? Because it seems like this is just another setback. I mean, we've been covering this for months and months and months. There's still no there there. How would you describe where we are in this investigation? How people should be thinking about it?
It's very, very clear. We don't know. Why don't we know? Because the investigation is being conducted, behind closed doors and being released selectively by leaks. Both things that shouldn't be happening. This should be transparent. It should be out in the open. Every American should know what the status of the investigation is. It's exactly the wrong approach.
But even if it were out in the open, I mean, you look at how the media just handled this story that we are reporting right now. I mean, that's not a good headline to show just 4 U.S. intel agencies support that claim with Russian collusion. So even if it were out in the open, do you believe the media would report it correctly?
Well, at least some media would get it right if it was out in the open, and the individuals would be able to make determinations for themselves.
Right.
By having it leaked selectively, that's where you get this misinformation all the time, because the FBI, and that was true under Comey, is true under the current director, and it's been true for years now, leaks information when it serves the interests of the FBI to leak the information. The director of the FBI didn't have the courage to come forward and say he wants a special counsel appointed. He went behind the back of everybody, went to a Columbia law professor, and laundered the information in order to get the result he wanted to achieve. That's FBI think, and that's not the way things ought to happen in this country.
Alan, I want to get your take on the president's travel ban. We saw that what the Supreme Court did this week and basically allowed it to resume until they can take it up. Now, Democrats are filing a lawsuit in a sort of an effort to halt the travel ban. Can they really go around the Supreme Court in this situation, Give us the legal side of this.
No, the Supreme Court was very clear that they were going to essentially make a distinction between people who have a bona fide connection to the United States and people that don't. Now, they didn't say specifically what they meant by bona fide connection to the United States. So, to the extent the lawsuit intends to clarify that, it's a responsible lawsuit. To the extent that it tries to get lower courts to undercut what the Supreme Court said, then it's not an appropriate lawsuit, and I think the courts will slap it down. Look, right now, we have to wait until October, the oral argument, to see whether the Supreme Court actually takes the case. Because remember, the travel ban expires on its own within 90 and 120 days. That's before the Supreme Court would hear argument. But if they do hear argument, I think they will uphold the travel ban as it relates to people who have no connection to the United States and might tamper with it a little bit or tinker with it a little bit when it comes to people who have connections. Obviously, there's this distinction between somebody who has a green card and somebody who's never been to the country and wants to visit.
Well, always a sound voice. Always enjoy having you, Professor Alan Dershowitz. Have a great holiday.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Happy holiday.
All right, coming up next, a brand new fake news scandal that could give CNN a run for its money. Did AP reporters try to cover up an imaginary meeting to make the president look bad?
No.
And will a late-night retraction be enough to overturn it?
Plus, rising Democratic superstar Cory Booker honoring the heroes of Planned Parenthood, comparing them to the men who stormed the beaches at Normandy. More on that coming up.
Whoa, hey. Fellas, over here. Fellas, easy.
Guys, you're knocking the furniture down.
Fellas, easy. You guys are getting worse.
That's kind of how he feels.
He's so calm, though, in that moment.
Easy.
The press kind of jumping at him, take some photos there. Excited photographers from the Korean press corps bumping into a couch, causing a table next to the president to start wobbling and almost knocking over a lamp.
Easy, fellas. The whole ordeal unfolding during the president's meeting with the South Korean president. Luckily, the president's quick-thinking bodyguard saved the day.
You know what? It's a nerve-wracking moment when you're in, the White House, you're in front of the President of the United States and your own president. I mean, they're nerves. I mean, we do television, we know.
But he was calm, cool, and collected. He's like, guys, relax.
Both of them were.
Easy, this is only getting worse.
I do love his honesty. He just says it like it is. All right, now to some other headlines we're following. This is a serious one. An airplane crashed, exploding into a massive fireball right in the middle of a California highway. You can see the plane right there veering out of control, slamming into the 405 freeway just seconds after takeoff from near Santa Ana. Both people on board, the pilot and his wife, they were rescued from the wreckage, taken to the hospital, but their conditions at this point are still unknown. We'll keep an eye on that story for you. And the mainstream media's credibility taking another hit. The Associated Press now engulfed in a CNN-level scandal. The AP wrote about a meeting between EPA boss Scott Pruitt and the CEO of Dow Chemical, then alleging that it may have influenced policy. Well, the AP News agency forced to issue a correction after learning the meeting never actually happened. A very similar mistake cost 3 editorial staffers their jobs at CNN earlier this week, if you remember that, after alleging that an associate of President Trump held meetings with Russian investment fund leaders. It just continues, doesn't it? And President Trump telling superstar NFL quarterback Drew Brees that you are fired. The White House sending letters to Brees and several other high-profile athletes who were once members of President Obama's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition. As members of a presidential council, technically their positions carried over into the new administration. Current White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer told the Daily Caller, quote, like other appointees from the last administration, we will be replacing them. Also a gender reveal really floors its audience. Well, I can relate to this story now. A family was preparing for a fun gender reveal surprise when the suspended box they used fell right on top of their son. As you can see, their partygoers' excitement at the news of another boy quickly turned into pure shock as the toddler is wiped out. The father quickly running to scoop him up. Needless to say, not the best way to find out you're getting a little brother, but it sounds like he was okay. All right, those are some of your headlines. Out to Rick for some weather. And it's pretty muggy today, Rick.
Yeah, it is. He already doesn't like his new brother.
I know. It's a bad start.
Guaranteed that is a bad start. Hey, welcome from Columbus, Indiana. You're about to start studying journalism.
I am at Ball State
in
Muncie, Indiana.
There you go. This is your big break. You're about to become a journalist.
No, It's very exciting.
Yes,
It's awesome.
nicely done. We'll see you here shortly. Take a look at the weather maps. Everybody wanting to get outside this weekend across the eastern part of the country, it is very hot and it is very humid, and we're going to be watching those showers continuing throughout the day today and tomorrow. Actually, we just kind of have a series of storms moving. Some of them heavy right now across parts of Texas, and we will be seeing a little bit of severe weather. Here's kind of the future radar. Pick where you are and see what happens throughout the day today. Scattered showers and thunderstorms. Anybody has a chance of getting in on some of this. Tomorrow, kind of the same areas, a repeat of this, and temperatures just remaining hot.
So it's perfect to be in front of a grill.
That's right. It's still a good feeling, though, the heat off the grill, no matter how hot it is. All right, well, 4th of July weekend, as you know, is the perfect time to barbecue.
And here to show us how to grill, take our grilling to the next level, is celebrity chef George Duran.
Right,
nice to see you, George.
Yeah.
Welcome back. How are
Thank you so much. We have a special barbecue sauce that you're going to love. It's called Bama Barbecue Chicken. It's a white, tangy barbecue sauce, and you're going to help me make it.
You don't normally think of barbecue
so what do I whisk up here?
Faced with mayo.
Yeah, it's mayo, a little bit of white wine vinegar in there, mustard, horseradish. This is special. This is by Tyson Farms, by the way. So we're going to add this to our chicken by Tyson Farms. They have a really nice, fresh, boneless, skinless chicken right over there. So this goes right into the thighs on the grill. Then you season the thighs and you put it in there. And the beauty is that they're made with no antibiotics ever. There's no added hormones in there, and they're raised in American farms. That's the beauty of the Tyson chicken.
So you put that, you sort of drizzle that on when you're done.
When you're done with it, you put it right on the grill. You put a little bit of garlic mashed potatoes, throw it on top over here, and you have this Bama style, or Bama chicken, it's called. And the barbecue sauce is white and tangy and creamy, and you just lay it right on top of the garlic bread, garlic smashed potatoes, and of course the Tyson chicken thighs, just like that.
Ask me one of these bad guys.
Really beautiful.
So we're talking about these Kamado style grills from Vision Grills. Big fan of these guys. So now you can do pizzas on here. These things can get 700 degrees in here.
This is how unique this is over here. You can actually turn this from the charcoal grill that it is, or the Kamado style grill, to a gas insert. And the beauty of this is that you can grill with this like you do with regular propane or natural gas tank. Put the insert inside and grill 5 days a week your hamburgers and hot dogs. But the weekends you want to smoke, or look at this smoke I'm doing over here. You can smoke over here, or you can make a nice little pizza. You want some chops, you want some skirt steaks, you want to sear on this. You get some serious temperature, and it holds that heat for a very long time.
I love this grill. And by the way, I made a strip steak on there, on a ribeye, and get that sear. It's one of the best steaks I've ever made.
It is a thing of beauty. They're found at Home Depot, at Sam's Club as well, and they have colors you won't imagine. Even the American flag is right behind you guys. You got to see this.
Hey, one of the great things about this company, Vision Grills, is started by this couple right here.
Right over here.
It's a small business. This couple who just started this amazing grill company, and it's taken off. So wonderful work. We are so glad you guys are here again.
Well, we'd love to be here.
Vision Grills. All right.
And Twinkies.
That's right. Twinkies has the new chocolate peanut butter Twinkies. America's favorite snack cake right over here with chocolate and peanut butter right over here, guys.
George Duran, thank you. Abby, send it back to you inside.
That looks amazing. I don't think Pete said one word in that entire segment. It's pretty standard. All right, well, Kate's Law is heading to the Senate for a vote, and 10 Democrats will likely get pressured by their constituents to get it passed.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends Live from the Catwalk this morning. Some quick headlines for you. An ominous late-night tweet from Eric Holder saying, quote, "To the career men and women at the DOJ, FBI, your actions and integrity will be unfairly questioned. Be prepared, be strong, duty, honor, country." Holder has yet to offer any explanation. And the mayor of New York City is now putting his $2 million legal fees on the shoulders of taxpayers. In a blog post, Mayor Bill de Blasio writes, "The bills are related to multiple investigations of his fundraising efforts. The city is already paying millions in legal fees for other city employees also involved in that probe." Pete?
Clayton, you look nice as always on the catwalk. All right, one half of Congress making good on President Trump's promise to make America safe again. Kate's Law, which cracks down on illegal immigration, now goes to the Senate, where 10 vulnerable Democratic senators are likely to face pressure from their constituents to support the bill. Here with more on these senators and why they face a challenge in the president is the president of Rasmussen Media Group, Scott Rasmussen. So, Scott, in the Senate, a bill like this needs 60 votes. Right. There's not enough Republicans to do it, so so they would need Democratic support. You're saying there's some vulnerability for certain senators if they don't come
Yeah, and let's set this up. There's 52 Republicans. There are 3 Democrats who voted for a version of this in the past, so you get 55. Now you got to find 5 more Democratic votes. Going to be very, very difficult. But one of the ways that we're looking at this race and the dynamics of it are what we call pivot counties. These are counties across the country, 206 of them, that voted twice for Barack Obama and then voted for Donald Trump.
Interesting.
Senator Angus King in Maine comes from a state where half of the voters are living in pivot counties. This is the northern 2/3 of the state, the rural counties, the people that felt like they're left behind, the very people who gave one electoral college vote in Maine to Donald Trump. They're going to be concerned about this bill. This is an issue that he's going to hear an awful lot about from voters in Maine.
My home state of Minnesota is another one you're paying attention to.
Yeah, now Minnesota, look, heavily Democratic state. None of us thought there was any chance it would go to Donald Trump in 2016.
It almost did, though.
Came within 2 points. Right. This is a state that we think is probably safe for Senator Klobuchar, but 18% of the voters live in pivot counties. And I want to put this in the proper perspective again. 5% of the votes nationwide were cast in pivot counties. Very small section of the electorate. But they accounted for 51% of all Republican gains. So they have the potential to change states. In fact, they're the reason that Donald Trump won a state like Michigan, where Senator Debbie Stabenow is up for re-election. She won with 59% of the vote the last time. But then again, this was a state that Donald Trump pulled a big upset. If the pivot county voters don't like the messages they're hearing from these candidates, they could be in trouble. One of the biggest is Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin. She is in a state that none of us expected Donald Trump to carry on election
night. Part of that blue wall that broke.
That's right. And, it's a state that perhaps broke because Hillary Clinton couldn't find it on the map and make the trip there.
That always helps.
That always helps. But this is a state that has about 18% or 17% of the voters living in pivot counties. These are places, again, that are looking for change. They are very open to hearing the ideas about Kate's Law, about protecting America, about enforcing the rule of law, and they want somebody who will stand up for them. Another part of this state is a group of counties that are solidly Republican now because of Scott Walker. That state has changed a lot since the 2012
Very much so. I mean, it's very instructive because a bill like this, which does make common sense, which it would be attractive to Trump supporters, but you've got Democratic candidates so locked in a resistance that they can't vote for it. But you're saying this could really have consequences with these 10 Democratic senators, so they better think twice about a vote like this.
Right. Now, look, if we're being honest, I expect it will not get the 60 votes. But this becomes a phenomenal campaign issue for the president to drive home in 2018 in support of a Republican Senate campaign.
Really interesting. And since they're 0 for 4 so far in special elections, they've got a gubernatorial race in Virginia next year. So far, it doesn't look good when you just try to resist.
Right. Well, you got to do more than resist. The Democrats need to find a message. Now, special elections are overrated for their predictability.
Fair enough.
But I think there has been a great underestimation of how firm these Trump supporters are. And it's also important to remember that about 1 out of 6 Americans are unhappy that Donald Trump is in the White House, but they're happy that he beat Hillary Clinton. These reluctant Trump supporters will be coming out in droves in 2018.
Well, Scott Rasmussen, also the author of the book Politics Has Failed, America Will Not. You did not fail us this morning either, Scott.
Thank you, Pete.
Appreciate your time. All right, Democrats opening up a new line of attack against the president, questioning his mental health. Will calling him crazy really remove him from office, or is this all just a big old waste of everyone's time? The one and only Geraldo Rivera joins us live at the top of the hour to comment on that. Plus,
welcome back on this 4th of July weekend. You're feeling patriotic, you're putting out the flag, you're getting ready for the parades, you're getting your friends together, and you're celebrating this country's history. Well, a new poll out this morning from YouGov says that 1/3 of millennials aren't patriotic. 35% say they're not patriotic at all. They have no connection to the fabric of our American history.
And you think about millennials, this is like the age group that's about to take over this country, right? They're going to be the next leaders of this nation. And you think about where their head is at. And we've lost sort of the sense of wanting to serve this country, right? And Pete, I mean, you are someone who has served the country, and you have a lot of friends. And I find, and same with my family, I find the military is always the most patriotic because they are in the thick of it, and that is what they do every day. They are fighting for this nation, for our freedoms. Somewhere along the way, we've lost sight of that.
I agree, and what scares me also, that number is high, but it doesn't surprise me one bit. If you look at what happens in our junior highs and our high schools where they don't teach civics, some of them don't even say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then they go to safe spaces and microaggressions, universities and colleges where they're told that America's to blame for all the ills in the world. Then the media and Hollywood and the culture reinforce that narrative, and the sort of the peer pressure to be left or a socialist or against America is heavy. And we're also teaching kids to be global citizens of the world, and not patriotic Americans. This is why a lot of people went out and supported President Trump, because they want their country back. They believe in sovereignty. They love America, and they say, you know what, standing for the national anthem is pretty common sense. Well, this stuff is disturbing, but it's where our country's headed, and we better reverse it, especially in our education.
I grew up as a fan of history. It's sad because I think that so many young people probably don't have that connection to our American history. You know,
they don't even understand it.
They don't even understand it. I mean, you look at
they're not taught it in school anymore.
They're not taught it in school. They're not taught about what we sacrificed on the beaches of Normandy, on D-Day to bring freedom to the world, to liberate France, to liberate Europe. Mm-hmm. Today is the first day on July 1st. July 1st is the first. 1863 is the first day of the Battle of Gettysburg. Mm-hmm. Growing up in Pennsylvania, go to see those battlegrounds. It's amazing, and so many young people just are not connected to that at all. They're not reading the books. They're not connected.
So we asked you, are you surprised by this poll? And you've been pouring in with your responses. Chuck emailed us this. He says it's no wonder. Just look what they're taught in school. To your point, Pete, they are not taught about the souls that have fought and died for this country so they can enjoy their freedom.
Yeah, to yours. Wade emails, instead of a paid holiday on July 4th, have those millennials work for regular pay that day. They would get patriotic and probably more capitalistic in a hurry.
We just did this segment last weekend about fewer young people are actually working in the summers.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, what are we losing in this nation? Come on, people.
Yeah, the summer off as a kid. No way, not in my house. All right, the indoctrination they're getting is responsible for this. We can thank liberal college professors for millennials being unpatriotic. That email is from Jim.
Abraham Lincoln once said, the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation becomes the philosophy of government in the next. And if we're not teaching kids to love the country, then what do we expect on the back end?
Well, we are going to be celebrating it all morning long, as we already have. And we've got an American final hour on tap for you. The Rockettes are in our green room right now. There they are. They're looking beautiful as always. Find out how they are helping our heroes this 4th of July weekend.
Plus, Geraldo Rivera is enjoying a hot dog on the plaza this morning.
I guess. We'll take your word for it, Clayton.
Yeah. And he's going up. We're going to go head to head with the Nathan